Hi, my name is Lathrop Lybrook. I am 38 years old, and in 1998, at the age of 16, my parents had me removed from the home when I tried to walk out the front door to escape a fight. They called the police while my father had me physically restrained against the wall, and they took me to a psychiatric hospital where I spent a week. After a week there, I was picked up by two escorts who transported me across the country to northern Idaho, where I became a part of the CEDU Family of Services. The school that I was dropped off at was at Rocky Mountain Academy. I was immediately presented with the rules, which included not being able to speak to my parents but twice a month for 15 minutes during monitored phone calls. I wasn't allowed to have any communication with my younger sister for 9 months. I wasn't allowed to have any communication with my friends for 15 months. I was informed that I would not be in any academic classes but sawing logs in the wood corral. It was extreme despair, panic to the greatest level I had ever felt at that point in my life. 12 hours later, I went to meet the rest of my team, and as they were doing introductions, when they were telling me how long they had been there, which was up to 30 months, I panicked and I ran across the dorm and I slit both wrists, demanding a phone call to my parents. At that point, besides being locked up, I had no history of ever cutting myself. Because of me slitting my wrists, I was then escorted to Ascent. When I was taken to get a phone call, which was a ruse, to my parents, I was picked up by two more escorts who dangled handcuffs in front of me and said, "You can do this the easy way or the hard way." And I took off running out the door, and as I did, I was pounced on, body slammed, I fell on my stomach, and I was then handcuffed. They were put on my slit wrists, which was painful in itself. I was bawling hysterically. I had never been attacked by people in such a way before, and it was baffling to me. It was overwhelmingly shocking that it was my parents paying them to do that for me. Do that not for me, to me. So from there I went to Ascent. I cried the entire way. Once I reached Ascent, I was hysterically crying again. I was made to strip again, and this time I was told to squat so that they could see I wasn't hiding anything inside my vagina. At this point in my life, no one had seen me naked besides myself in the mirror. So it's all so overwhelming. I had committed no crime. I was just a 16-year-old girl who didn't get along with my narcissistic mother and my passive-aggressive father. I was at Ascent for 6 weeks. The verbal and physical abuse was just nothing that I could have ever expected. It just was a different world. I can't even begin, I want to tell you so that you understand, but it's impossible. I was there for 6 weeks, and then I went back to Rocky Mountain Academy. When I made it back to Rocky Mountain Academy, I was terrified of getting sent back to Ascent, which was a constant threat. So I abided by all of the rules, and my only goal was to get my parents to let me to come home. They wouldn't hear of it, and so after 9 months of being completely compliant with the program, I was told on a visit that you get visits once every 3 months, and it was my third visit with my mother, my second visit with my father, and my first visit with my sister. They had just come from a family reunion in Wyoming that I was not allowed to be a part of, although through the entire 9 months I was led to believe that if I was compliant I would be allowed to go. Dangling carrots, the entire process, dangling carrots to be followed by heartache and denial. Okay, so then I was there for 9 months. I ran away in the middle of the night. I had been on a dorm restriction where I was denied access to feminine hygiene, showers. I went without meals, meals were skipped. I was sleeping on the floor in a sleeping bag. I was on house-down bans, which meant that no student on the entire campus was allowed to talk to me or acknowledge me. When I ran away and got to the payphone, I contacted my mother, and as I was hysterically crying, she told the police to take me back to the school. So they handcuffed me while I hysterically cried in the hotel lobby. I was 16 years old. At this point, I had still never committed a crime in my life. I had now been handcuffed 3 times, twice by the police, once by strangers. 4 times. 2 times by the escorts to the police from Northside. No, that was the threat of handcuffs. So 3 times. So then I am taken back to the school. I continue to refuse the program. I go to break into the admissions office to get to the phone to call my parents, and there was a student there who physically assaulted me, to which I kicked her in self-defense. I was then picked up by more escorts with handcuffs who took me to North Idaho Behavioral Health, which was a mental hospital, part of Kootenai Medical in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. While I was there for 2 weeks, it was heaven. It was a nightmare, but it was heaven compared to being at one of the CEDU programs. From there, I was sent back to Ascent. Since I had done the 6 weeks at Ascent before, I knew exactly what to expect, and so upon my arrival I completely refused, which included going 3 days without eating food. That time it was my decision not to eat. Because I did that, I was then taken back to North Idaho Behavioral Health, where I was put on 10 days of isolation, which included being given the book Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul and told to write a journal article about every article that I read. Then I was put on the social residential unit, which was a unit created specifically for long-term CEDU students, which included Rocky Mountain Academy, Boulder Creek Academy, Northwest Academy, Ascent. So I was there for 5 months. During that time, I continued to refuse to go back to the CEDU school, while my parents continued trying to talk me into it with threats of sending me to Provo. I didn't know what Provo was, except for that I knew that it was worse than the CEDU schools, and so that was terrifying. That was a terrifying threat. The word is scary. I'm 38 years old and I still find the word terrifying. So I then, at the end of the program, I ended up getting a GED, and I went home 4 months shy of my 18th birthday. All of my friends were still juniors in high school. The experience was beyond traumatizing. I didn't go into the types of abuse. It has very much affected me to this day. It's affected my relationships with my family. It's affected my relationships with my friends. It's affected my relationships with my significant others. It has affected my sex life. It has affected my job history. It has affected the amount of places that I've lived. So basically the last grade I had completed was the 9th grade, and it was till my mid-20s, before like 26 or 27, until I went back to school for a psychology degree. Up until that point, I cringed with every application I filled out putting GED, because I got a GED after finishing the 9th grade while locked in a mental hospital in northern Idaho. And the thing is that I was from a wealthy family in a small town in a sheltered community, and if that can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. The only thing that I was guilty of was being under the age of 18. I am breaking code silence. There are hundreds of programs like this in the country, not to mention the entire world, but this is America, and there's supposed to be rights of freedom, and minors in this country do not have it. In 15.5 months, I was sent to Rocky Mountain Academy, to Ascent, back to Rocky Mountain Academy, to North Idaho Behavioral Health, back to Ascent, back to North Idaho Behavioral Health. I'm breaking code silence.